This is Apple on the 5-minute time frame. Here are your price targets for Wednesday. We ended the day at $221.27, up 1.72%. To the north side from where we are takes us back to the middle of the trend at 221.91. This is also resistance and a potential take profit area. Above that, at 2 standard deviations takes us to roughly 223.77, 224.74, and should we be so lucky as to get to 4 standard deviations from where we are, don't hold your breath though, 225.68. To the south side, VWAP in the blue line is 220.96. This is another level of support, and another level of support at 220.56, but here at -2 standard deviations, 220, and a gap forms to the south side right at roughly 219.02 at -3 standard deviations. I will mark that out. Oops, that is not where I wanted to mark that. And let me just drag this out. There we go. At -4 standard deviations takes us to roughly 218.12, another level of support. Many levels of support from -4 standard deviations to 4 standard deviations. And looking left, note the sell-off here at resistance, a slight bounce here at support, a buy-in, and then we fell back down to another level of support, and then a bounce sell-off at resistance. And as far as this gap goes, I have not looked at Apple in a little while. So this gap touched to the upside at roughly 218 here. Oh no, that was 218.99-ish. So we gap down, anticipate it to fill on the way up, touch right there. So that is no longer in play. This gap to the south side that I was tracking on the 26th. Was that the 26th? 25th. Okay. It finally touched here. Again, I just draw out my gaps. I have no idea where it's going to touch. Then I have to clean up my charts. So that touched right there, roughly 210.81, and that was on August 5th. So this gap is no longer in play to the downside, no longer a threat to our account. There are other threats, not this one. And I took a look at the price when it was also 210, made our way up to resistance and fell back down. And speaking of resistance, we've got a gap to the upside, it looks like right here. And so we gap down, so I'll anticipate it to fill up whenever we get to that level, because we are not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close, just something to be aware of. But we are fortunately in an upward channel on the 5. This is marked out down here for the monthly RSI. So we did touch 30 on the monthly and it did bounce. But let me show you what we look like on the daily. I did track this for my gap and go, and it touched, so I've stopped tracking it weekly. But this is my favorite ticker and my #1 stock. All right, so we are at 221.27 right here. We're basically at the middle of the trend, and if we're down here grinding our way up here, this turns into resistance, and you know what happens at resistance. Oh, sorry, this is on the 1 hour, but since I'm here. All right, and then on the 1 hour, that will take us to 235.44 and then wipe out this gap. Now let me go to the daily and give you some targets. And on the daily, you can see how many times I've tracked this forever, it seems. But on the daily, in the big picture, where did my 221? Okay, it's hard to see. 221.27. Oh, that needs to be in green because that's a gap fill. That's how I like to mark it out. So to the upside, this will take us to 227.29, and back at the middle of the trend will take us to roughly $200.03. And the 1-year price target is 244.48. Ever since Apple announced it was no longer going to produce the Apple car and that they were going to focus on AI, this stock has been running and staying in the 200 level, and I've never seen this before, and it's been amazing. Obviously, we've dipped down here and there just because the market tanked, but in general, we are staying in the $200 range, and it's fabulous finally to see, because this thing deserves it. Other stocks have run. Apple's just always lagging behind. And finally, we're seeing some traction. Obviously, we've had many splits, and I've been part of those splits. But it's just never stayed in the $200, $300, $400 range, and especially the $400 range like Microsoft. But I'm glad to see this finally sticking in the 200s. Now, the other stock I want to go over is Starbucks. I'm also in this trade for my mom. I've been in for myself and out before in the past. But right now we're at 95.90. And silly me, I've been so busy. I have not dollar cost average down and should have. We ran today off of some fantastic news. Apparently the market liked it. We ran 24.5% off of news that Chipotle's CEO is now going to move over to Starbucks. He turned Taco Bell around, taco, and then Chipotle, when it got beaten up because what was that, food poisoning, salmonella, I don't know what it was. I can't remember, but I just remember there was a major incident and the stock tanked, and apparently he turned it around. And they're hoping he does it with this stock. All right, here are your price targets. So ignore all the horizontal lines. I don't know what price I still have it at, but I have been again in and out, and I'm still in. All right, $100.59 on the 5-minute time frame. Note the upward channel. Okay, another level of resistance and potential take profit area will take us to 3 standard deviations: 105.19, 109.91, the blue line VWAP 93.63. This gap, begins at roughly, let's clean that one up just a hair, maybe right there, 90.25, okay, and 81.99. This gap closes out at basically -3 standard deviations. Let's just say around 77.28. Then if we make it to this level down here, 72.56, that'll take care of these 3 price targets for the gaps to the south side. And there is always a south side. And what goes up must come down. Don't expect this stock to continue to run without taking a breather. People will get acclimated to the news, then he's going to have to perform and make money for the shareholders. So let's see if he can do that. And looking left, look at this huge run. You just never know when a stock is going to do that off of news. So I'm sure more people will be getting in. So we're grinding sideways here and then the bump up. So that's the 5-minute. Oh, this gap. Let me just clean up this gap here, taking us down to 76.01, and then we went down even more. Okay, let's go to the daily. Well, apparently I bought some this was a long time ago at 75.80. I think I'm definitely out of this one. Okay, so what do we have here? This is the daily, and oh wow, look at that. Okay. So the next target, just right at 4 standard deviations, will take us to 97.18. But we are at resistance on the daily, and you know what's going to happen. People will take their profits and they will run, they will lock in, and they will leave. You can count on that. So then this gap, and then this gap that I pointed out earlier. So let me clean up this gap again. Say I bought some here, so I'm barely up. If I'm still in this one, I think I am. So this will take us to, 88.39, and we touch, so this is no longer in play to the north side. And this is done. So we gapped down, then I anticipate a fill up, and we did, and then we ran up off of that good news. And we've got targets up here that I am still tracking on the daily. And then this little tiny one. And then this one closed out right here at 85.18, no longer a threat to our account. Okay, and look at this. This one basically opened up around, oh my gosh, November of 2022. We finally retraced back down. Took that long and closed out on Friday, April 12th. Look at that. I haven't cleaned this thing up since April. Yep, that's a problem. You can see what's happening if you really track a stock for a long time. And if you mark these out, make sure you mark it out on the same time frame, because I usually mark this out on the 5, and now I flipped over to the daily, and it's not going to be accurate, but I'll just pull it and delete it just to get rid of it for now. But I will go through and clean up my chart and not make you go through this with me. But we've got gaps to the upside to fill and gaps to the south side. But I wonder, yeah, I'll have to look at this maybe on the monthly and clean this up. But now, very quickly, I like to look at the worst performing stock within the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. I'm only tracking 234 at this moment. I haven't had time to put more on my list. And then Chipotle got slammed down because guess what? Starbucks took the CEO, Brian Nicole, however you say his name. Oh, Jim Cramer. Oh gosh. Okay. Never believe anything that man says. Okay, did I just say that out loud? So we are right here on the daily. To the north side takes us to 53.30, and back at -3 standard deviations, 48.61. What is the 1-year price target? 63.52. And Chipotle used to be very expensive, but they had a stock split, which I didn't really track that heavily, but I do remember a stock split. I don't eat at Chipotle. Yeah, that's not something I go to, and I go by one all the time. I'll have to give them a try again. All right, let me just mark this out very quickly. So we are at 51.68, and right there. So at the middle of the trend, which we will get to 52.14, I'm pretty sure, for Wednesday. So close. Then 2 standard deviations, fingers crossed, 55.77, 57.67, and 59.42. Ignore the horizontal lines. Those are previous support and resistance, and you can see we have fallen from grace and still going down on the 5. Okay, VWAP 50.11. Another level of support, many levels in between. I'm just giving you some clear ones that I track. 48.38, 46.52, and 44.70 to the south side. And let that populate here. So this gap, you know what? That didn't touch. That looks like it did, but no cigar. So did it touch there? No. It looks like it, but no. Right there it did. So that's done. And that took us to 55.13. And all right, that's going to be a look at Chipotle. Make sure you set your stop loss. Protect yourself from the market tanking. All right, that does it for me, and have a great trading day.